to the Canna-Coin Podcast with Nicole. Whether you are canna curious, you are an advocate of the space, or a budding entrepreneur, we are here to destigmatize the wealth and wellness benefits of cannabis. So I'm super excited today because we are actually joined by someone that is an esteemed member of my social circle and community, someone I've known for over 20 years who really understands not just we're not going to talk about cannabis because that's what we're going to talk about, but it's deeper than that. The mindset of being free. You know, what I have always appreciated about this gentleman is that he has been a free thinker from the very beginning, and he has incorporated his free thinking into trainings and programs and opportunities to help other people find their liberation, which is something that cannabis also helps people do, right? It helps people to really kind of like unchain. And so we're going to have that conversation with Mr. Jullien Gordon today. But before we jump into that, we got to go into our hot topic. So, hot topic, we're going to talk about the state of North Carolina and their interest in decriminalizing cannabis and accepting medical marijuana in the state. We have seen that so many states have definitely gone forth in legalizing both recreational or medicinal marijuana. But there are these states that are still confused about the benefits of cannabis, and they still try to create this hype, this negative stigma around it that prevents the industry from really expanding. And so we know that the Compassionate Care Act has been on the table now for over 2 years. My name is Nicole Vanderhorst. I'm the CEO and founder of WH Farms Co. If you are a faithful member of this podcast community, then you know that WH Farms Co. grows industrial cannabis on legacy farmland in eastern North Carolina. We grow on African American and Tuscaroran legacy farmland, land that was cleared by hand by freed slaves, so that we are able to really shift the narrative around a plant that has been responsible for its criminalization in our community and really bringing a divide to our community. We're using this plant to unify and also to promote the therapeutic benefits. And that's why we need the state of North Carolina to get itself together, because here's the deal. What we've realized is that North Carolina is the third leading agricultural state in the country. And what we also know is that there are so many wellness challenges. As a matter of fact, in the state of North Carolina, I attended a House Health Committee meeting, and it was communicated that every 6 hours someone commits suicide due to depression. That was a real statistic in the state. And yet, when we see the information in the Compassionate Care Act, we notice that there are so many medical conditions that are missed and not mentioned, such as depression, that are actively available and really permissive and blah, 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 blah. Where you want me to start over at? That are actively, or okay. Okay, so I'm going to say, so what we know is that every 6 hours, and this was data that was taken from the North Carolina House Health Committee recently, that every 6 hours in the state of North Carolina, someone commits suicide due to depression. But yet, when we look at the approved medical conditions listed in the Compassionate Care Act, we don't see mental health. We don't see chronic pain. We don't see some of the challenges that our community is facing. Not to mention, for some reason, the state of North Carolina is of the belief that the criminal justice system should be a co-parent to this law and a co-parent to this policy by tracking the data and the records of all of the medicinal users so that they're able to ensure that it's not entering into the wrong hands. However, what happens if the grandson has a charge due to marijuana, but the grandmother is dealing with chronic pain, right? What happens if they're in the same household? Too many of these issues are common for a specific community, and we want the citizens of this community to really speak up and make your voice known. Let the state know that there are positive uses for the plant, that it's not only recreational, that it is also medicinal and therapeutic. And medicinal and therapeutic isn't an elitist situation. There are conditions throughout many communities, women and men of color, who need access to this plant in a way that they're not going to be scrutinized, that they're not going to have to worry about being chastised, and that they will feel comfortable going to their medical professionals, getting the help that they need. So that is my hot topic, specifically because I believe in the therapeutic and the wellness benefits of the plant. I've personally used it when I've had surgeries. I've given it to my doctors to know that that's what I'm going to actually be consuming. My mom actually is a contact smoker. She doesn't actually consume, but she will stand as close as she can to it so that she can get all of the benefits. And it's because she wants to sleep at night. She doesn't want to lay in pain all night long at the age of 78. She wants to rest. And this should not be a privilege. It should be something that they are offered, that's free and available and not scrutinized and overly criminalized. So, state of North Carolina, let's open up our minds and let's usher in this multi-billion-dollar industry. So, Jullien,
Yes.
how are
I'm
you?
doing well. It's been a long time, sister.
20 years.
Yes, it's been 20 years.
But we still look the same.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that.
And spirits don't age.
Exactly. Julie and I have known each other for a very long time. Back in the day, Jullien was, and I talked about this briefly before the podcast started. Jullien had this energy and this desire, and your purpose. You were the person who told me that your purpose isn't one thing. I'll never forget that, because I used to think back then that my purpose was just my nonprofit. And you was like, no, Q, your purpose is going to continue to manifest itself the more you do. And I've watched you live that, because you started with the 30-day Do It challenge with these small groups where we would come together and reach our goals and hold each other accountable. And shout out to that community, because I see you guys on social media doing great things. We're still in this thing 20 years later, right?
Yes.
Thanks to the seeds that you watered. And you have gone from that type of curriculum and you've transitioned into real estate. I mean, he's not just an author. You see this? You see this?
Ain't no ebook, though.
Listen, this ain't no ebook. This ain't no digital download.
Right.
This is what I love about Jullien. Jullien's program, the 30-day Do It program, when I launched my nonprofit back in the day, Jullien was one of the individuals who was super supportive of what we did, and he allowed us to use his curriculum in the high schools in Eastern North Carolina, in the rural communities. And those teenagers absolutely loved, like, we would host parties. There was a point system to see who reached the most. I mean, he knows it, but it was such a well-designed curriculum. It almost felt like, who is this guy? Like, he just does things at this level. You've been excellent from the time that I met you. Like, I'm just so proud of you, Jullien.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm
not
proud
a
of you
problem.
too. Yes.
Thank you. And he's a fellow Cancer, so we just good people.
Yeah,
you know what
know.
I'm saying? We just ain't got a lot of bad with us. Shout out to the Cancer gang.
Yes.
So tell everybody who you are, and I know I've kind of given you an introduction, but it's way more personal. So tell everyone who you are, what you do, and all of those things.
Yeah, well, my highest identity is that I'm a child of God first. That's the most important identity that I hold. Now, in addition to that, I am a proud father of a beautiful 9-year-old girl. In a professional context, I am here to fix issues and solve problems and create solutions around Black finance, Black faith, and Black families. And so most people know me as Mr. Multifamily. I lead the multifamily movement. Over the past 4 years, over 800 people have closed on their first multifamily home.
Yes.
We've collectively acquired over $300 million worth of real estate in just 4 years. And that's absolutely mind-blowing. My initial goal was 300, because that's how many people Harriet Tubman had freed during her time by making 19 trips below the Mason-Dixon line over the course of 10 years. And we blew through that number, and now we are focused on getting to 1,000 homes, which will be our next milestone, and 3,000 homes, which would be $1 billion of real estate acquired. So that's the tree trunk there. That's first and foremost. But then in addition to that, in regards to finance, I'm author of Rich and Righteous, Spiritual Secrets to Mastering Money, Manifestation in Your Mind. It's about financial spirituality and changing our relationship to money so that we have a healthier relationship to it based on spiritual principles. If we are not careful, we can have an inverted and perverted relationship with money, and money can become our master. And many people walk through this lifetime where money is their master, and then instead of them mastering money. And it all starts in the mind. But first and foremost, people have to realize that the greatest currency in the world is not outside of them, it's actually inside of them. That is the energy that is in your body. And so that's the second arm. And then the third arm is the Black family. I have been married and was no longer married. I am divorced, but I am in divine union at this moment in time. And so I had to go through a lot of healing work inwardly in order to look at my past patterns, look at the dark side of myself, and also be very clear about what I wanted. And so I've been blessed to have two people that I really care about helped me create Dating is Dope, and that is where we train people on getting ready for relationships. So
Yeah.
rather than just jumping to a relationship, you should actually get ready for a relationship. And we want that relationship to be rooted in purpose. You know, when you think about what the purpose of a relationship is, not just to give birth to children. You have to ask yourself, what can we give birth to that is even greater than children? Because those children are going to leave at the age of 18.
Right.
So what is the relationship really for? And so hydrogen and oxygen, they come together and they create something that is useful and valuable and healthy for the world, which is water, right? That is their purpose together, right? And then if carbon and oxygen come together, you get carbon monoxide, right? And that's actually poisonous or toxic. And that's where many people are in their relationship. They're in toxic relationships because they're bonded to another element or entity that they're not supposed to be bonded to. And so Dating is Dope is really about getting clear on who you are and who's actually going to be the best for you, and getting clear about what's the purpose, not just your own purpose, but also what is the purpose of this relationship beyond just birthing kids and safety and security.
I love the intentionality of it all. And I think that that's because you've always been very guided, right? Like, I feel like for as long as I've known you, I shared earlier that one of the first books that Jullien recommended to me 20 years ago was The Perfect Power Within.
Yes.
One of my favorite books.
Yes.
Because it really talked about really understanding, you know, coming more into an Aquarian mindset where you look inward for your spiritual growth and inward for the development of your spiritual power,
Yes.
as opposed to seeking externally for things that really don't exist. And I think that in our current society, we seek so much externally
Yes.
that we find ourselves, as you say, attaching, gravitating, and connecting. There's a lot of transactions that are taking place as it relates to finances, but when it comes to true currency and understanding the value of currency and the energy of currency, we
Yes.
know that, you know, as much as there may be an abundance of paper, there may not be the same in terms of value, right? And the same in terms of positive impact. And that has so much to do with the world within.
Correct.
And how we're dealing with that. So we just gonna dive right in, because you already know we going deep.
Let's go.
All right, and I was totally gonna get into the shadow work that's needed before dating too, because I am so excited to talk about that. But first of all, let's talk about. I wanted us to have a conversation today because when I worked full time, again, we met Jullien back when we were all working our 9 to 5s, looking at our bosses. It's like, we're going to fire you someday. We don't know yet. We don't know when yet, but we just know that we on borrowed time. And there was this level of preparation that Jullien kind of really reminded us of, that we needed to consider as it related to our mindset to prepare for entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurship today has become this thing where it's kind of like, I don't need a job. I'm just going to be an entrepreneur. But 20 years ago, it was really about creating a valuable experience in a way that was both economically and missionally important, right? Like, you saw entrepreneurs really solving problems, creating impact, and creating economic value. They weren't freelancers. They didn't necessarily hoard all of the money for themselves. It was about them being vessels and about it continuing to flow through. So the process of flowing through, though, takes like a cognizance of the relationship with money. So talk about that. Talk about how you were able to get to this space where you were able to assess the type of relationship you needed to have with money so that you could continue to grow, produce, and create the type of fruit that people have been able to live off of for 20 plus years.
The first awareness that I had to come to was that the greatest currency was within me, right? And that is my real wealth and my real power. But then secondly, from the physical standpoint, I had to recognize that this physical money is not my money. It was energy that was given to me. And so I'm more of a steward of it rather than an owner or controller of it. And the better steward I become, the more God will use me. The reason God continues to supply me with money is because God knows that the buck does not stop here. See, when most people get $1, it stops flowing. They put it in a savings account and it's only yielding 0.03% interest. It'll take you 2,400 years to double your money at a 0.03 interest standpoint, right? And so God knows that when I get $1, when I get more energy, stored energy, right? Money is an inert spiritual substance that we can use to do good in God's work. It knows that it's going to be used. I have my emergency fund. That is all that I have saved. And your emergency fund should be anywhere from a 6 to 12 month savings. I store mine as a maximum cash value whole life insurance policy, which also comes with a death benefit as well as earns interest, and I can draw from that money. So that's how I store my emergency fund. Above my emergency fund, I'm here to play and to create. And the goal of money is not to accumulate it. The goal of money is to circulate it, right? And to circulate means to return to point of origin. So when I look at a dollar, I say, in God I trust, and I release it. And when I release it and it does good and it bears fruit, then guess what? It comes back to me, and it comes back to me in larger and larger quantities. If I hoard it and store it, just like in the parable of the talents, where one servant buried the money, then that's how you get money cut off. You get cut off from your source of supply because you were fearful of actually releasing it. You actually made money your God instead of understanding that your job, for instance, is not the source of your income. Your job is a stream of income. Your source is always God. And when you know that, and you know that you're a child of God, then you know that abundance is your birthright. And if you stay in alignment with your purpose, your source, your creator, whatever you call it, is going to supply you with your needs. Why would my creator, and you know my work started with purpose, why would your creator create you for a purpose and then not give you everything you need to succeed at that?
Correct, right.
And so I know that if I stay in alignment with my purpose, I used to be a hustler, right? I used to hustle in terms of workaholism, right? It was about hustle. How hard could I work, long days and hours and things of that nature. That used to be my methodology. But then I switched to just say, just stay in alignment with your purpose and with what God created you to do, and trust that all these things shall be added unto you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you.
Matthew 6:33.
Exactly, one of my favorite verses. And so once I moved into that paradigm, money started flowing to me with more ease and in greater and greater quantities. And again, I don't possess any of it. I don't see it as mine. I see it as blessing, so that I can be a blessing. And that's what I've tried to do in the world.
You know, what I love about what you just said is many of us as millennials, we were trained by Generation X. And if they didn't know anything, they knew hustle. I mean, they were the can't stop, won't stop generation.
Correct.
And what I love about what we've been able to understand through the advancement of technology, through digging deeper in our spirituality, is that it is about alignment. Because if you truly recognize that you are a vessel, then you understand that it's about your position. Your usefulness is based on your positioning. And positioning isn't a physical posture, but it's really a heart posture. It's about how willing you are to have your heart available to your source, so that your source can make you, you could be used and available to whatever the physical use is. So let's first, before we even get into these questions, let's talk to the viewers about how you develop this spiritual foundation. Like as a man, how did you find yourself in a space where you developed such a sound understanding of your purpose and the way in which you wanted to allow yourself to be used in society?
So I got a divine download, and it was a metaphor about a cup, and you remember this from the first workshop that you came to, and it was that if you look at a cup can be used for many different things. The purpose of a cup could be to hold liquid, which most people use it for. We can also have it on our desk, and it can hold pens. We could trap insects. We could even play catch with a cup. But how do you know the true purpose of the cup? The only way you know the true purpose of the cup is actually to talk to the creator of the cup. And so for me, that meant actually developing a stronger connection with my creator. And to be honest with you, it meant having a direct connection rather than going through a mediator, being religion, to get to my creator. If you look at power lines are most powerful near the power plant. Once that energy travels all the way to your house, it loses energy. And so you actually want to plug in directly, not have to wait for that energy to come to you through another entity. So when I started going to God directly as opposed to through an institution, and I believe in fellowship, whenever two or more are gathered, I believe in fellowship, but you also have to have a direct connection. So that direct connection for me primarily looks like, one, meditating first thing in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes, and clearing my mind so that I can hear God and what God wants me to do for that day. And then two, it requires me to go into reading spiritual texts, but the spiritual text not just being the Bible, it being many different types of texts that are going to give me spiritual insight to who I am, whose I am, and what I am, so that I can be of the greatest use possible. So that is how I maintain my connection, and also being in fellowship with people like yourself who are looking inwardly to understand the depths of themselves. You can master all this outward information, but most people don't know thyself. And so these are the questions that we went through as you came to driving school for life, and we went through the exploration of your purpose. That process was mine. And what I found is that when I go through a process for myself, the way my mind works is I like to codify it into a methodology or framework. And when I find that it's useful for myself, then I say, let me just potentially
Share
share this with
purpose.
other people and see
Yeah.
if it will bless other people. And that's where Sam came to my living room November 22nd, 2018. He came to my living room for the first driving school for life, and then I met you through Sam. I can
2018 or
2000,
2008?
excuse me, 2008. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, 2000 November 22nd, 2008. And once I realized that methodology was powerful and useful to other people, that's when I went to share it with others. And that January 9th, 2009, that's when I quit my job and just moved out on faith. I did have 6 months of savings at that moment in time, and I still operate like that from a savings standpoint. For me, my cost of living at that time was $3,000 a month, so I had $18,000 in savings. And even today, even in the abundance and the wealth that I do have in my possession, I live very simply. And the reason why, and you've seen my journey, I know that God can call me and say, okay, you're done here. I need you to go over here.
That's it. You are on assignment.
And I want to be able to pivot without any question. Not be, oh God, well, I got these expenses now. I got to handle this over here,
Yeah.
and then I'll get back to you when I got this straight. No. When God tells me to go a different direction, if God tells me to go a different direction, I want to be able to go on a dime without money ever being a decision-making factor. And so that is how I move. I am here to serve, and who I'm here to serve is God, and then and serve God's children, being my brothers and sisters like yourself, Halana, Sam, other people who come through my various programs.
Absolutely. So I actually spent 8 years as a Buddhist after our season of, kind of like going through driving school for life. And because I was very dissatisfied, when you dive deep into self, you become very dissatisfied with, just traditional religious conversations. It's just not deep enough, right? And you find that there's a lot of surface information, but when you have this internal turmoil that you need to deal with that's affecting you in life, you really do have to get, more clear about a source. And so that's Buddhism helped me to really not only dive deep, but to develop more Eastern practices that help me to be more inwardly focused. And with that, I also, and I don't know if it's a cancer thing or just a spirituality thing, but I also like light traveling. But even when, prior to launching WH Farms, I had grown my real estate portfolio. I had relocated to North Carolina. I was buying multifamilies, doing all of these things and getting them. And then the spirit was like, no, you're going into the cannabis industry. I'm like, huh? Like, what do you mean we're going into the cannabis industry? He's like, no. And the whole vision came to me in a dream. And I'm like, okay, God, so if you want this to happen, then this is going to be, I want you to direct me. Like, direct me into where you want me to go. And to see the number of people that we've been able to help from a health perspective, I'm grateful for nimbleness. Sometimes we can become too gluttonous with our possessions and with our lifestyles. It becomes more about feeding ego as opposed to feeding purpose. And we do find ourselves stuck in locations that the expiration date is already expired. And it's like, why are you still there? I'm over here now, but you can't move as freely because you're so bogged down with like stuff. So I love that you have developed that as a mindset, and you also show it as an example. And even from a financial wellness perspective, a lot of people say you can control but don't own anything, right? Like control everything but don't own anything. And it's kind of like the same mindset where you are in a space where you're free to move, but it doesn't mean that you don't have control over the things that continue to bring value and allow you to operate as a vessel.
Correct. 100%. I'm totally in alignment with that. And in terms of the spiritual journey, for me as a man, it's very hard for Black men in today's church.
It is.
And this is why you see a lot of women there only, and older Black men have left because when we ask questions, the minister can't answer the question. And so at that point where you start to tell me, lean not on thy own understanding, and you just want me to bow down to you, but as Black men, we don't accept that.
No.
And so
I have a husband. I know that for sure.
100%. And so for me, after asking, so for me, it actually started when I was in college. I went to church as a child because my friends were at church, not because it was just a programming thing, right? And then when I got to college, I stopped going because I was in Westwood and I didn't have a car, so I just stopped going at that time. But then, of course, a woman that I was interested in was going to church and she had a car, so guess where I was on Sunday? I was at church, right? And so, but we ended up separating, but the minister, Noel Jones, at City of Refuge was amazing and Jamaican and very intellectual about his discernment in terms of the Bible, and so I'd leave there taking as many notes as I was taking in class, right? And that worked for a little bit, but then the spiritual hunger, started developing again, and I was like, okay, I need some more, because just coming to this service is not enough. So then I was going to a Bible study that some of my friends were going to on a Monday at Maranatha, and then that was cool for a little bit. We actually read Purpose Driven Life there.
Yeah.
That was powerful. And as you know, I have my own methodology on top of that. But the hunger came back again. I was like, okay, I'll just go to another church service on Sunday. So now I'm going to 2 church services on Sunday and Bible study on Monday, right? I'm going to City of Refuge in the morning. Then I'm going to Maranatha service on Sunday. Then I'm going to Maranatha's Bible study. That was cool for a minute. And then the hunger came back.
It's the cancer. You're insatiable.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I'm like, okay, I'll just go to another church service. So now I'm going to Maranatha, City of Refuge, Maranatha, and West Angeles at night on Sunday. Then Bible study on Monday at Maranatha. That was cool for a little bit.
And then the hunger came. So it's like no more services.
No more services. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this text cover to cover for myself. And that is the most powerful thing that I think anybody who identifies as Christian can do. Most Christians have never read the Bible. The book that they base their entire belief system off, they've never even read it.
Yeah.
And they've spent their whole life cherry picking scriptures that their minister tells them, when you can go read directly. You've probably read just as many emails. Oh, the book is too thick. I don't have time for that. You've read as many Instagram posts. You've read as many emails, right? You've read other books. What do you mean you can't read the book that you based your entire life on? So I challenge people to do that. And when you do that, and this is probably wise, because you're actually going to see things that don't get preached on Sunday.
Right. Right.
And when you start to see those things that don't get preached on Sunday, and when you start to be able to decipher perhaps Jesus' ministry for yourself and not based on what's being taught from the pulpit, you realize that the physical institution of church or religion is not in alignment with what the book actually says
church is.
And so that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. And so one Sunday I woke up and after reading the text, after going to 3 services consistently and Bible study and reading the text from cover to cover, one Sunday I woke up and I just stopped going.
Yeah.
Because I learned that my body is the temple. And where's your temple? They're right here.
Yep.
So the true church is within me. God dwells in temples that are not made with the hands of man.
Yeah.
Where is that? That has to be the body.
Yeah.
So I only need to go to a physical place to fellowship, but I can access God directly whenever I desire.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you talked about Black men and how the church isn't a space where they oftentimes feel comfortable and welcome. And we talked a bit about dating, right? Let's talk about, I want to dive into that a bit because I think that in a lot of relationships, the conversation around church can be a deal breaker. So much so that, you know, and when you really dig into get to know yourself and get to know and prepare for dating so that you can date in a healthy way, even having a sound understanding of why church is so important. Because I've seen, again, previous generations, you will find that so many women will beat church across their husband's or boyfriend's head. Like, you got to go to church. And if you don't go to church, they're vilified and they're put down and they're shamed and they're guilted. But that's not a fruit of the Spirit.
Not at all.
Right? And so what do you recommend as a community, you know, as we kind of grow into leaning more into spirituality, because we as millennials, I think, have seen so much more financial advancement than previous generations. We've been able to get out into entrepreneurship, make things shake, make money happen, but the value and the context and what we actually possess, we don't actually cherish it or value it in the same way, because I don't think that we really have taken, like Jay-Z says, there's a lot of information out here, but not a lot of context, right? And so what do you think is a good, what do you recommend for women who are saying, like, I want my husband or I want my man to be in church with me, or I want this type of relationship? What would you recommend to them so that they're able to really hear it from a man's perspective and understand that if he's not in church on Sunday, that doesn't mean he's not righteous. That doesn't mean that he's not upstanding.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he needs that type of leadership, right? Like, what are some of the common causes of that sort of mindset, and what recommendations do you have?
Yeah, so first and foremost, a lot of people are talking about a high value man, right?
Oh, gosh.
And the materials that come with that and being a provider or whatnot. You're not looking for a high value man. You're looking for a high values man.
Yeah.
you're looking at his values, but values are internal, and you have to see that through action, behavior. And so that is actually more valuable than a high value man. There's many men out here who have money, but not too many people in general, men or women, who may have your standard of values.
Correct.
And that's actually what you're looking for. We also have to know that I have two little brothers, right? And we have a father. We share a father. And we all have unique relationships with our father. There's no one common way that we connect with our father. One person may go to his office and talk to him, and that's how they connect. One person may go to the hardware store with him. One person may play sports with him, and that's how they connect. And so just because your partner doesn't connect with God in the way that you do doesn't mean that they aren't connected to God.
That's it.
And so that's really the key. So I do believe that you can have that dynamic and just, but it's not just, but you have to see him, or if we're switching the equation around, you have to see her connecting with God in some way, even if it's different than yours, and honoring that.
I love it. I love it. So I want to jump into the conversation today because so many, as you know, we've launched not only the farm, but we help businesses launch or expand their CBD product line. We wanted to create a space where we were able to allow entrepreneurs to enter into the cannabis industry without having to spend millions of dollars. We want to destigmatize the process and give us an opportunity to not be late in this industry as it unfolds, but actually to pioneer this space. But so many entrepreneurs are uncomfortable or unable to manage the risk that comes along with cannabis and cannabis business ownership because of their mindset. Right. And so I want to dive into mindset. Tell me how crucial cultivating a growth minded, a positive mindset is as it relates to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, the subconscious mind is a soil from which everything grows. And if you have rich seeds, which are rich ideas, because everybody's had $1 million idea, but if that $1 million idea, that rich seed did not get planted in rich soil, then it bears no fruit. This is why you haven't seen your $1 million idea unfold. And so the subconscious mind is the rich soil that you must cultivate, and you have to be a guard inner. You have to guard your inner. And this is how you cultivate ideas so that they come to fruition over time. Without mindset, you can't get anywhere, because as a man thinketh, so is he. So that is all about being within. We also know that a man is renewed by the renewing of his mind. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So we know that it all starts there, and your life is really just an outpicturing of what you believe to be true about yourself and what's possible in your own life. There has to be a direct correlation between above and below, right? As above, so below. And so if above is not up in heaven in the sky or something like that, that's not even where heaven is. It's right here in your mind. And so what you're experiencing in your life is what you truly believe is possible in your mind for your actual life. See, a lot of people try to make change from the outside, right? And so if we're in a movie theater and we're looking at a screen and the movie is bad, we can boo at the movie screen. We can even slash the movie screen, but that still won't stop the bad movie from playing. The only way to stop the movie from playing or to change the movie is to go up into the projector room and actually change the film. So where's that film? That film is here. See, the projector of your life is actually in here. A lot of people think these eyes see out, right? And that they're taking information in. The reality is that it's your inner mind that's actually projecting outwardly. It's the opposite. It's the reverse. And so we have to cultivate it here. And it's really mindset that has stopped millions from making millions.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that I've shared throughout this episode or throughout these episodes is the effects of trauma and how, sometimes within our culture, we just deal with so much trauma that we just continue to kind of like repress and put down. And we think that we can get this job or get this career, get this outer existence that's going to erase what's happening internally. But until we really, as you said, till our soil, the soil of our mind, and really make sure that we're able to receive the ideas and fully cultivate them, then we're not able to really grow and expand into who God has called us to be with any business idea, right? And I find that, and what most people don't, I always say this, money is a currency, it's an energy. And so when you have this fear and this doubt and this lack of awareness of this scarcity mindset, then you end up pushing it away, as opposed to allowing yourself to be this magnetic force that can attract it and that can continue to recycle it, right? And so I think that that's so important. I want to talk about, this book It guys, if you dive into it, just please understand that it's going to take you some time, but it's something that you should digest over time, because it's something that will provide you with such depth and context of knowledge that it's nothing to rush through. But tell us about this book and what made you write it. I'm gonna let you hold it.
Yeah.
And what you wanted, your readers to really understand as you wrote it.
Yeah. So it came to me as a divine download at the beginning of COVID. I knew that the world would slip into a mindset of scarcity.
Yeah.
And I know that I had navigated that. Like we said, I quit my job January 9th, 2009. That was the bottom of the last recession.
Right.
Yet I thrived.
Yeah.
I wasn't surviving that time that you met me. I was thriving. Right?
I mean, like literally.
So I was like, okay, I've been here before in a quote unquote recession. Technically, I don't use that language. I don't believe in recession. Right. That's not part of my vocabulary. Therefore, it's not part of my experience.
Right.
Right. But I knew I had survived what other people were identifying, calling a recession before. And so I was in perfect position to say, how can I share what helped me navigate that particular time of perceived scarcity, right, and still be abundant. And so literally I was being woken up at 3 a.m. every single morning and going to a Google document, and God was moving through my fingers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so this book was twice as thick, and it went through the editing process. It took about 6 months to get it out and give birth to it. And the most important things I wanted people to understand, one is that you are a child of God, and that two, abundance is your birthright, and that we have to solve money from a different level. Einstein said you can't solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created it. So many people try to solve their money problems from the physical standpoint, or the tangible physical money, or as gold. That's how they perceive it. And so when you see money as only physical, then you think you need to do physical things to get it. We have to go above that in order to solve it. You have to be able to solve your problems from above in order to change below. So if you look at money from an emotional standpoint, do you hate rich people? If you hate rich people, then guess what? You're actually repelling money.
That's it.
Right? Because what happens when you become rich?
Right.
So subconsciously, you want to be known as good. But if you think rich people are bad, then you actually don't want to be rich. So with your mouth, you're saying you want to be rich, but you believe that rich is bad at the same time. So those are incongruent thoughts, and they're canceling each other out. Then from a mental standpoint, like you said, is money scarce to you or is it abundant? When you're able to perceive that money is actually everywhere. If we look around this room, there's money in that stand, in that camera, in your outfit, in this table, in this paint. There is money everywhere around you. But if you see money as a scarce resource, then you don't see all the financial opportunities that are available to you. And then finally, from a spiritual level, understanding that you are money, right? That the greatest currency in life, the most valuable currency in life, is actually running through you, and it is not in the physical form. The physical form is just a manifestation of what you believe about yourself. And so we have to solve our money problems not on the level of money. It's not just about saving and budgeting. You're still trying to solve them on the level of money. You have to elevate to the emotional, mental, and spiritual 100%. Understanding of money in order to master the physical existence of money.
And that's, I think, what contributes to the thought process that aligning is required and not hustling. Because once the alignment is in place, then you are solving money problems from a spiritual perspective, because you're, again, making sure that you're attuned to where the currency is able to flow instead of out of position.
Yes.
And I think that today, again, we are very much so pre-social media, right? And so today we see this overwhelming traction of lifestyle marketing and, all of this attracting of financial success through the exposure of things. And it's a dangerous space.
Very much so.
It's a dangerous space because it would, first of all, there's a level of stewardship that all of us have when we have influence. And that level of stewardship is to be mindful that there are people watching. And that the plan and path that we lay out, if they can't duplicate it and become better versions of themselves, then is it really worth laying it out or presenting it that way, right?
Yeah.
So talk about how you take this mindset and apply it to today, like today's time. I mean, we're not going to get into what you got into last night, but I do want to get into the overarching conversation of lifestyle marketing and faking it until you make it and lacking integrity. All of these things that really are a matter of congruency, because a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And so if you have this instability between your words and your actions, then when it comes to the currency's confused. Like, it doesn't know what to do. So it just does nothing. It doesn't do anything. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're in an interesting age. And last night was a time, but it needed to be done. When I look at lifestyle marketing, it's a catch-22 because you may be able to hook people into something that they may not have been willing to do without the flash.
Yeah.
But if you do that on your back end, you have to be able to deliver. Because what most people are doing right now is that they are sharing the fruit that they've received, right? As opposed to the fruit that they've been able to help other people bear.
Right.
So that's lifestyle marketing, is look at my fruit basket instead of look at all the fruit that I've been able to create in the lives of others. As you mentioned in my introduction, there are many people who say Jullien not only has given me fruit or taught me how to create my own fruit, but I also have the seeds that are allowing me to multiply even more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so when you are choosing between online educators, especially financial educators, you want to look at not their lifestyle and say, I want that lifestyle. Instead, look at how many lives they've changed.
Yeah.
So when you talk about all the people that you're helping in the cannabis space, and I know that you could get testimonials, you could call them up right now and say, what have I done for you in your life? And they would just speak good, then that is the metric that we use to evaluate who we're going to learn from. Because, and you probably do have to learn from somebody. YouTube University does not work when it comes to money. And here's why I say that. It is hard enough to master one asset class.
Yeah.
Real estate, you've mastered that. Now you're switching into, or you have switched, into cannabis. That's a whole nother beast when you're really trying to seek mastery. So if you're trying to just learn on YouTube University, you won't ever achieve mastery. You'll be ankle deep in a whole bunch of things and never be fully immersed in something.
Facts.
And so you want to identify the one or two asset classes that you are going to master.
Facts.
And then any other asset class that you want to diversify into, you need to have a relationship with somebody who is as good of a master in that space as you are in your space. And so that's how I think about it. That's how I think about it. And we're in a very weird time where it's hard to distinguish the wheat from the weeds. And they all look the same on the outside. And so you have to, the only way to make the distinction is the fruit that this individual has bore in the life of other people.
And one of the things that I tell people all the time, because again, very much so pre-social media, right? When we started this personal development journey, I mean, we had to go and pull out tapes and cassette tapes. And, you know, this whole personal development conversation was not very popular. Everybody wasn't running around in the early 2000s talking about manifestation. You either had this inkling to want to learn more and dig deeper, or you just didn't. And one of the things that I used to learn from like the John Maxwells and the Bob Proctors is that as a leader, your fruit will prove who you are.
Facts.
Whatever you produce, it will show itself. It's almost like parenting. You can't mistake what you produce in your child because it comes from something. Like it has to start at an original source. And so even with real estate developing, when I started with the REI Mentor, which many people know me from, I didn't have an interest in monetizing real estate investing as an education. I just really had a passion project while I was going through my own trauma healing. And the passion project was so awesome because that was my barometer to determine my healing. Deals. Seeing my students produce deals, seeing my students make 5-figure checks, 6-figure checks on flips, that was me saying, okay, the vessel works. You know, because I went through a period of my life, which I've shared before, that I dealt with my own inner child trauma. But the way that I was able to overcome it was to focus on what the vessel could do. And I knew that the vessel could provide motivation, insight, information, and access to opportunities that will create more. And when you're able to see your fruit, that's when you can say, oh, I can pat myself on the back now. I see my fruit. But now we're in a season where people can fake their fruit. People can literally like pretend and place a camera in front of their face. And then it becomes a situation where it's like, and then it's the next thing, and then it's the next thing, and it becomes a pattern. And I think that's how you determine whether or not you're dealing with something that's solid versus something that's shallow. Because it does follow a pattern. You know, we watch it follow a pattern, and the pattern is one that is meant to almost mislead or play on the ignorance of, as opposed to truly empower. And I think that that's something that if you are ever out, if you guys are listening to this and you're looking for mentors and leaders to follow, find people who want to empower your independence, not to enable your dependence. Those who enable your dependence are looking for jobs, and you are essentially their employer in some capacity. But those who are identifying with enabling your independence, they understand that their source is from here. and they're only meant to operate out, right? They're not worried about you giving it back because it's coming from here.
Yeah.
And it's a very different conversation. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and in terms of overcoming trauma, one of the most powerful things you can do to overcome trauma, besides stillness, is actually to take the mirror off of yourself and say me, and all the things that I'm going to, and actually go serve.
That's it. That's it.
Not only is service a powerful way to actually heal trauma, service is actually the secret to success. See, the movie The Secret, vision boards are not the secret to manifestation.
Yeah.
The secret to manifestation is actually to serve others. Yeah. And when you serve others at a high level, you will find that money comes to you, which then allows you to have everything that was on your vision board. Yeah. If you help enough people achieve and get what they want on their vision board, you're going to have everything that you want on your vision board.
It's law.
It's law.
Yeah.
It's universal law, but many people have it backwards. They get their vision board and they only focus on the things on their vision board. But the way to get to the fastest is actually to serve others. Service is the secret to success, and it's the secret to healing as well.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. So let's talk about high risk industries, real estate, cannabis, both very volatile, both high risk. Mm-hmm. What would you recommend to entrepreneurs entering into that space as it relates to like preparedness?
Yeah. Oh, man. So I want to be very clear about entrepreneurship first and foremost, is that many people who are new to entrepreneurship perceive entrepreneurship as risky. The greatest risk is not doing what you were called to do.
Right.
And if you are experiencing pain and doubt and frustration and stress in your life, it's likely because you are out of alignment. When a will is out of alignment, right, it is actually experiencing stress, and it is getting wear and tear on it a lot faster than a will that it is in alignment. And then the goal of an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, I want to be very clear about this. The goal of a true entrepreneur is to actually squeeze the risk out of a business. So you may initially step into something that is risky, but if you are a great entrepreneur, you actually take the risk out of that business through your systems, through your solutions, through your team, your processes. You take the risk out of business. So you went from acquiring a piece of real estate that was unstabilized, only had 50% occupancy, low rents, etc. You go in, you do rehab, you rebrand the space, you actually are able to raise rents, you're able to bring in a new type of tenant to that space. You've taken the risk out of that business. Right. That is what great entrepreneurs do. Right. So yes, entrepreneurship initially is risky. Right. It's not forever risky if you're a really great entrepreneur. You want to get to a point where you take the risk out of the business. So you have to do your SWOT analysis. You have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, and you also have to know what your threats are. And the threats are the things that if this thing happens, for instance, in real estate, if the interest rates go to 9%, then this could get really sticky, right? So you have to know what your threats are, and you have to start protecting yourself from those things. And in the cannabis industry, since I don't know much about it, I don't know the threats. Obviously, actually are legal.
Right. Regulations.
Regulations. A mayor or anybody in power could sign something, and all of a sudden it's not. You can't do that here anymore. Airbnb for real estate. Exactly. You can't do that here anymore. So you have to know what your threats are and be able to hedge against that. So if I had an Airbnb, for example, I have to know that, okay, if Airbnb were to go away, because I know that one person could wake up, a politician could wake up and say this is not happening anymore, right, after a vote, what's my next business model to convert? I would immediately liquidate this furniture, or I would keep this furniture, and I'm actually going to switch to traveling nurses, or I'm going to switch this to a student housing model or something like that. You have to know what your play is if you are in vulnerable situations where something can change within a day or within a few months that actually shakes up your business model. But again, the goal of a great entrepreneur is to take the risk out of a business. Entrepreneurship isn't just in general risky. There's initial risk, but then you take it out.
So this is my last question, because I mean, this conversation has been so rich. I feel like we need a part 2 and a part 3. I'm just going to say that. How important is environment? Now, we've talked about the internal environment, the internal growth, right? But how important is it for new entrepreneurs, perhaps listening to this podcast, to choose environments that are healthy for them so that they can be the effective entrepreneurs to de-risk situations, to be able to be agile and move, to be leaders in their space? How important is choosing their environment? Sometimes I feel that people decide to take on more without recognizing that you can't pour old wine in new wineskins.
Correct.
Right? So talk about environment.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the various elements of environment. The first environment, which of course is your inner environment, so managing your mind. But then after that, as we move from inward outward, the next environment is actually your home. Yeah. And you actually want to curate your home in a way that actually inspires you, especially if you're working from home and you spend most of your time there, that environment should inspire you, and it also should be a de-stressing place where you feel comfortable and can relax. So some people can't have the house that they desire, their dream home at this moment in time, right? So there's simple things that you can do. You can actually go get a high-end pillow,
Yeah.
right? If you love the pillows at the hotel, don't go buy a pillow from Target for your home, because your mattress is where you're going to spend 1/3 of your life.
Right.
So make sure you invest into a mattress so that the sleep that you have is great, that the pillow that you have is great. Then there's simple things you can do in terms of your bathroom, like your shower head. You don't have to have the old shower head that came standard. You can go spend less than $100 and get an amazing shower head that just changes that experience for you, right? So adding color, adding art. So that is the next environment. You want that space to feel sacred for you, and feel like a womb where you can develop and create from. Then, of course, when we talk about environment, we typically talk about the people that we hang around. And a lot of people have this notion of, only hang around, if you're the smartest in the room, then you got the wrong people. Then that suggests that I need to cut off these 4 people.
Right.
No, you can keep the friends that you have, but you need to be able to tap in to mentors, but not a mentor in the traditional sense that, I'm meeting with this person every week or something like that. No, you need to have a personal board of directors that you can call on for specific things. When I'm having issues in my relationship, I call this person. When I'm having health issues, I call this person. When I'm having financial challenges or questions, I call this person. So they don't have to be your mentors, but you have to create a personal board of directors who can help you in the challenging areas around your life. And you really only need 1 or 2 brothers or sisters to be really rock with you and really hold you accountable. Perhaps a workout partner, perhaps a goal-setting accountability partner, perhaps another entrepreneur that you can call and you do a 15-minute check-in call at the beginning of the day. You only need 1 or 2 people. It's not about the size of your circle, right? It's about these people being in alignment with you and wanting what you want for yourself, having no personal agendas except for what you want for yourself.
And that's so important.
And so for me, that is the composition of environment. It's your inner environment, you managing your emotions and your mind. I primarily do that through meditation. Then your outer environment, starting with your home, even starting with your bedroom. We can start there first, then go into your home, and then those that you hang around.
I love it. I love it. I didn't ask much about cannabis, but let me just drop this in there. How does cannabis play a part in your lifestyle or your regimen? Do you consume or
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. Like I said earlier, I always want direct access to source and to God, without the use of any external thing. And so I don't participate. But I do believe, I'm aware that God's first gift to man before life was land.
Yeah.
And cannabis comes from the land.
Yeah.
And the pharmaceutical industry has demonized it. Why? Because for somehow we as African Americans in this country got access and hip to it before anyone else.
Yeah.
And it could have been really, really profitable for us if it wasn't treated legally in the way that it's been treated by so many states and by the country at large up until the recent years. And so we were robbed of an opportunity while they then penalized us for these other drugs that were being implanted in our community. We had one that naturally came from the earth, and they wouldn't let us monetize. And so that disappoints me in many ways. And if it is helpful for people, I am aware, because I've had family members who dealt with addiction, I am aware that you can get addicted to it. And at that point, it is not being as useful and it is being harmful. And so, but that is any substance, right? That's not just cannabis. And
Could
so
be sugar.
Yeah. So exactly, sugar, alcohol, etc. So I believe that anything that God created is created for a purpose. And as long as we're using it for that purpose, then for me, it's all good.
That's awesome. Thank you so much,
You're
brother.
welcome.
I am so excited about today's conversation, guys. I know that you got great gems from all of the just valuable insight that Jullien provided. If you like this video, if you like this podcast, make sure you like the video, you share it with your family and friends, comment, and certainly check out the additional episodes. And thank you for joining the Canna-Coin Podcast with Q Nicole. We are so excited to have you. You can find me on Q Nicole McNair on IG. And Jullien, where can they find you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in real estate, you can go to rentfree.com and I'll teach you how to find and finalize your first multifamily real estate deal. And if you want to learn more about Rich and Righteous, you can be part of my free 100-day money mindset reprogram at richrightnow.com. That's richrightnow.com.
Thank you so much. Yep. All right, guys.
Q, I'm gonna have you do the outro one more time.
Okay, cool.
Do your part, though, Jullien, right?
I messed up though. I can do it again real quick. Yeah.
All right, you ready? All right. So thank you for tuning in to the Canna-Coin Podcast with Q Nicole. I hope that you enjoy all of the great information that was provided. Jullien just dropped so many gems. So if you found something that you heard something that you like, make sure that you comment, you like the video, you share it with your family and friends. If you're an entrepreneur, tap in to the resources that he provides. Talk about your resources and how people can find you.
Yeah, so I'm primarily on Instagram, and that's Jullien Gordon, Gordon. So you can find me there. If you want to learn about multifamily real estate, you can go to rentfree.com. That's rentfree.com. I'll teach you how to find and finalize your first multifamily real estate deal. And if you want to be part of my free 100-day money mindset reprogram, you can go to richrightnow.com. That's richrightnow.com.
Perfect. Thank you for joining.